Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Trump is escalating his attacks against Central American migrant caravans making their way to the U.S.-Mexico border, including warning soldiers could shoot migrants for throwing rocks.
We're not going to put up with that. They want to throw rocks at our military fights back. We're going to consider it. I told them, consider it a rifle. When they throw rocks like they did at the Mexico military and police, I say, consider it a rifle.
President Trump has announced he may send as many as 15,000 troops to the border and indefinitely imprison asylum-seeking families in tent cities. This comes as a new Associated Press investigation has revealed over 56,000 migrants have died or gone missing worldwide over the last 4 years, as migration has surged by nearly 50% since the turn of the century. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, funerals continued Thursday for 3 more victims of Saturday's mass shooting at Pittsburgh's Tree of Life Synagogue, which killed 11 Jewish worshippers. Services were held for husband and wife Sylvan and Bernie Simon and Richard Gottfried. Robert Bowers pleaded not guilty Thursday. He's charged with 44 counts, including murder and hate crimes, over 30 of which could be subject to the death penalty. Bowers is accused of what has been described as the worst anti-Semitic attack in U.S. history. Meanwhile, a fundraising campaign launched by 2 Muslim American groups in the aftermath of the mass shooting has raised over $220,000. The funds are helping families of the victims pay for their funerals. This comes as NBC News is reporting the Trump administration is ending a program that provides grants to groups fighting domestic terrorism. The Countering Violent Extremism grant program is run by the Department of Homeland Security and was established under the Obama administration. It supports groups fighting hate groups, including white supremacist, anti-Semitic, and Islamophobic and racist groups. President Trump is reportedly planning on nominating State Department spokesperson Heather Nauert to be the new U.S. ambassador to the United Nations after Nikki Haley's exit at the end of the year. Nauert is a former Fox News host, including for the program Fox and Friends, a favorite of Trump's. She joined the State Department as its spokesperson last year. In environmental news, the world's oceans are warming at a much faster rate than previously thought. That's according to a new report in the journal Nature, which finds that oceans have absorbed 60% more heat during the past 25 years than previous scientific estimates. Scientists say this will result in accelerated global warming as the heat is released into the atmosphere, making the target of holding global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit even more difficult to achieve unless urgent global action is taken. The Washington Post is reporting Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman tried to slander slain Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi, falsely claiming the journalist was a member of the Muslim Brotherhood during a call with National Security Advisor John Bolton and White House Senior Advisor Jared Kushner in the days after Khashoggi's disappearance. The Muslim Brotherhood is classified by Saudi Arabia as a terrorist organization. Khashoggi was not a formal member of the Muslim Brotherhood. Today marks 1 month since Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi walked into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul and was assassinated. In news on Latin America, National Security Advisor John Bolton announced new sanctions on Venezuela and Cuba at a talk in Miami on Thursday, also singling out Nicaragua for possible future sanctions. He also praised far-right, newly elected Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro as a positive sign for the future of the region. Meanwhile, the UN General Assembly overwhelmingly adopted Thursday its 27th annual resolution calling for an end to the U.S. economic embargo on Cuba. Both the United States and Israel voted no on the resolution. And in Brazil, far-right leader, President-elect Jair Bolsonaro, has confirmed that Sergio Moro, the crusading judge who convicted former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva of corruption, will become his justice minister. After headlines, we'll speak with renowned dissident, professor, and author Noam Chomsky about Latin America and more. In Nigeria, suspected members of Boko Haram attacked 2 villages and a camp for internally displaced people in northeast Nigeria Wednesday, killing at least 15 people. Boko Haram has killed over 20,000 people and kidnapped thousands more since 2009. On Thursday, Google workers around the world walked out to protest the company's handling of sexual harassment and abuse. Democracy Now! Spoke with New York City Google employee and protester Dema Rodriguez.
We have decided that enough is enough is enough because everybody who works at Google has busted their backs, their lives, have sacrificed, have worked, have gotten the grades, have shown up in order to be the best at what they do. And it is unacceptable. It is absolutely disgusting that anyone thinks that you can be less than exceptional, and worse than that, you can be negligent about sexual assault, sexual harassment, abuse of power, inequities across every pillar that we have to no consequence. We will bring the consequences.
The protests came 1 week after the New York Times published a damning report detailing sexual misconduct at Google. A number of high-level male executives accused of sexual harassment and sexual assault have received millions in exit packages from Google. In election news, Oprah Winfrey joined Democratic gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams on the campaign trail in Marietta, Georgia, Thursday, days before the midterm elections in one of the country's most talked-about races.
I'm here today because of the men and because of the women who were lynched, who were humiliated, who were discriminated against, who were suppressed, who were repressed and oppressed for the right, for the equality at the polls. And I want you to know that their blood has seeped into my DNA, and I refuse to let their sacrifices be in vain.
Oprah also told crowds she's not hitting the campaign trail to test the waters for her own political run. Back in the United States, Iowa Republican Congressmember Steve King lashed out at a college student at a campaign event in Des Moines, Iowa, Thursday for asking about how King's personal beliefs line up with those of the Pittsburgh shooter, Robert Bowers.
You and the shooter both share an ideology that is fundamentally anti-immigration.
Do not associate me with that shooter. I knew you were an ambusher when you walked in the room, but there's no basis for that, and you get no questions, you get no answers.
I was about to ask you what distinguishes your ideology.
Games here in Iowa.
I was about to ask you what distinguishes your ideology.
You crossed the line. It's not tolerable to accuse me to be associated with a guy that shot 11 people in Pittsburgh. I am a person who has stood with Israel from the beginning. That the length of that nation is the length of my life.
That was Iowa State University student Caleb Van Fossen. He also tried to ask Congressmember Steve King about his recent trip to Austria, where King met with an Austrian neo-Nazi group. Earlier this week, the head of the National Republican Congressional Committee blasted King for his white supremacist ties, and corporate supporters of King, including Intel, Land O'Lakes, and Purina Pet Care, announced they would no longer fund King's campaigns. King is up for re-election, is polling just 1 point ahead of his Democratic challenger, J.D. Scholten, in a district that Trump won in 2016 by a 27% margin. And in New York, a political event hosted by Ilana Glazer of Comedy Central's Broad City at the Union Temple Synagogue in Brooklyn was canceled last night after anti-Semitic messages were found scrawled on walls throughout the building. Among the messages, "Jew better be ready," "Insert oven here," "End is now," "Hitler," and "Free smoke for N-word Jews." The N-word was written out. The graffiti comes amidst a surge in anti-Semitic hate crimes nationwide, including Saturday's massacre of 11 Jewish worshippers of the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. I was scheduled to speak at Ilana Glazer's event about coverage of the midterm elections. On Thursday night, Glazer announced the cancellation to hundreds of people.
Hey, y'all. thank you for coming tonight. We have a situation that's not presenting any immediate danger, but there were hateful anti-Semitic scrawled all over the space today, very recently, within the past couple hours. So we don't feel safe. This wasn't the event, you know what I mean? This is, but we are experiencing this together, and this is something for us to think about, gather around, organize, and activate, and we'll follow up with the story and who I was hoping to show you guys, these local candidates who are running tight races who need your help canvassing this weekend.
The Union Temple Synagogue in Brooklyn hosts outside events frequently, including an upcoming event commemorating the anniversary of Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, November 10th, 1938, when the glass of Jewish stores was smashed throughout Germany. Ilana Glazer will join us later in the broadcast. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.